Imagine our planet's atmosphere as a thin, delicate blanket, barely thicker than a coat of paint when compared to the size of the Earth itself. This fragile layer is all that stands between us and the vast, cold emptiness of space. It's easy to forget just how slender and precious this protective shield really is, quietly working day and night to sustain life as we know it. The atmosphere is crucial for trapping the sun's warmth, creating a habitable environment where water can flow, plants can grow, and animals, including humans, can thrive. Without this natural greenhouse effect, our world would be a frozen wasteland, inhospitable to nearly all forms of life. In 2024, scientists around the globe reported a record-breaking rise in carbon dioxide levels, with atmospheric CO2 jumping by an astonishing 3.5 parts per million in just a single year. This is not just a number, it's a signal, a measurement that tells us how much our activities are altering the very air we breathe. This surge pushed the global concentration of CO2 to 434 parts per million, a level far beyond anything seen in at least the last 800,000 years. Before the Industrial Revolution, CO2 levels hovered around 280 parts per million. Now, we are in uncharted territory, with each new record setting the stage for further changes to our climate. The rapid increase is deeply alarming. Changes in atmospheric carbon that once unfolded over millennia are now happening within a single human lifetime. Glaciers that took thousands of years to form are melting in mere decades, forests are shifting, seasons are changing, and ecosystems are struggling to keep pace with the speed of transformation. This milestone in CO2 is a direct driver of the warming we experience. The year 2023 was officially the hottest year ever recorded, with heat waves scorching cities, shattering temperature records, and putting millions of people at risk. The link between rising CO2 and rising temperatures is no longer a distant theory. It's a daily reality. The excess heat trapped by these greenhouse gases energizes our entire climate system, fueling more intense storms, heavier rainfall, longer droughts, and more frequent wildfires. Our weather is becoming more unpredictable, and the consequences are being felt in every corner of the globe. In effect, we are conducting an uncontrolled experiment on our only home, releasing vast amounts of carbon into the atmosphere and watching the results unfold faster than anyone anticipated. Every factory, every car, every power plant adds to the invisible load our atmosphere must carry. The 2024 CO2 record is more than just a statistic, it's a planetary alarm bell, ringing louder with each passing year. It urges us to pay attention, to understand the profound changes we are setting in motion, and to recognize the urgency of the choices we face. This is a tale of our industrial ambitions and their unintended consequences. From the first coal-fired engines of the 1800s to today's sprawling cities and highways, our progress has come at a cost. The story of CO2 is the story of humanity's impact on the planet, a story still being written, with the next chapter up to us. The surge in atmospheric carbon dioxide is primarily due to our reliance on fossil fuels. These fuels, such as coal, oil, and natural gas, have powered our industries, homes, and vehicles for over a century. As we burn them for energy, they release carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that traps heat in the atmosphere, contributing to global warming. This reliance has been a cornerstone of modern development, yet it comes with a heavy environmental cost. Despite numerous warnings from scientists and environmentalists, we continue to emit billions of tons of CO2 annually. This relentless output is driven by industrial activities, transportation, and energy production. Cities around the world are often shrouded in a haze of pollution, a visible reminder of our impact. Cargo ships, essential for global trade, also contribute significantly to emissions as they crisscross the oceans. Nature also played a role, with El Niño and wildfires adding to the CO2 levels. El Niño, a climate pattern that occurs in the Pacific Ocean, can disrupt weather systems globally, leading to droughts and increased wildfire activity. These fires, in turn, release stored carbon from trees and vegetation back into the atmosphere, exacerbating the problem. El Niño leads to conditions that suppress carbon absorption by ecosystems. During these periods, forests and other natural carbon sinks are less effective at absorbing CO2, allowing more of it to remain in the atmosphere. This can lead to a vicious cycle, where increased temperatures and drought conditions further stress these ecosystems. Wildfires, intensified by climate change, release massive amounts of carbon. As global temperatures rise, the frequency and intensity of wildfires have increased, turning vast areas of forest into charred landscapes. Firefighters bravely battle these blazes, but the damage to the environment and the release of carbon are significant. The 2024 CO2 surge was a perfect storm of human emissions and natural events. This unprecedented rise in carbon dioxide levels was a stark reminder of the delicate balance between human activity and natural processes. Headlines around the world highlighted the urgency of addressing this issue. It shows how our actions create a baseline of rising CO2, punctuated by natural spikes. The steady increase in emissions from human activities sets the stage for these natural events to have an even greater impact. As seasons change, the effects of our industrial activities become more pronounced, with smog and pollution levels fluctuating. This combination reveals the fragility of our planet's equilibrium. The melting of glaciers and ice caps, the bleaching of coral reefs, and the expansion of arid landscapes are all indicators of a planet under stress. These changes threaten biodiversity and the livelihoods of millions of people. We are making the system more susceptible to natural fluctuations. Tree rings, which record environmental conditions over time, show increased stress in recent years. Scientists use advanced sensors to monitor these changes, but the evidence is clear. Human activity is pushing the planet to its limits. The record highlights the complex interplay between human activity and nature. It underscores the need for collaboration between industries, scientists, and policymakers to find sustainable solutions. As we look at Earth from space, the interconnectedness of our actions and the planet's health becomes undeniable. We must act decisively to protect our future. Our planet's carbon sinks, primarily the vast oceans and sprawling forests, are beginning to show unmistakable signs of strain. These natural systems have long acted as the Earth's lungs, quietly absorbing and storing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, helping to regulate our climate and keep global temperatures in check. Since the dawn of the industrial age, when humans began burning fossil fuels on a massive scale, these carbon sinks have shouldered an enormous burden. In fact, they have managed to absorb about half of all carbon emissions produced by human activity over the past 2 centuries. This silent service has shielded us from the full impact of our emissions, buying us precious time. However, the relentless pace of climate change is now undermining the effectiveness of these vital systems. As global temperatures rise, the delicate balance that allows forests and oceans to function as carbon sinks is being disrupted. The consequences are becoming increasingly visible, from melting glaciers and shrinking ice caps to vast swathes of deforested land. Oceans, which have absorbed about a quarter of all carbon dioxide emissions, are becoming less efficient at this task as they warm. Warmer waters hold less CO2, and the added stress leads to phenomena like coral bleaching, which further weakens the ocean's ability to support life and store carbon. Forests, too, are under siege. Rising temperatures, prolonged droughts, and outbreaks of pests, often fueled by climate change, are stressing trees and reducing their capacity to absorb carbon. In some cases, these forests are dying off faster than they can regenerate. In critical regions like the Amazon, once known as the lungs of the Earth, the situation is especially dire. Deforestation and degradation have reached such levels that some parts of the Amazon are now emitting more carbon than they absorb, effectively turning from a carbon sink into a carbon source. Wildfires, which are becoming more frequent and intense due to hotter, drier conditions, release vast amounts of stored carbon back into the atmosphere in a matter of days or even hours, undoing years or even centuries of carbon storage. This weakening of our planet's natural defenses is one of the most dangerous aspects of the climate crisis. As glaciers retreat and coral reefs die, the Earth's ability to buffer against further warming is diminished, leaving us more exposed to the consequences of our actions. Scientists warn that we may be approaching a critical tipping point, a moment when our carbon sinks can no longer keep pace with the ever-increasing emissions from factories, vehicles, and other human activities. If this happens, the excess carbon will remain in the atmosphere, accelerating global warming. This creates a vicious cycle. As the planet warms, carbon sinks become less effective, which in turn leads to even more warming and further damage to these crucial systems. The feedback loop threatens to spiral out of control if left unchecked. We are pushing these natural systems to their breaking point. Without urgent action to reduce emissions and restore our forests and oceans, we risk losing the very mechanisms that have protected us for generations. The time to act is now. before these faltering carbon sinks reach a point of no return. Carbon dioxide isn't the only greenhouse gas causing concern. Methane and nitrous oxide levels have also reached all-time highs. Methane is a potent heat trapper with significant near-term warming potential. Nitrous oxide, from agriculture, is a long-lived and powerful greenhouse gas. The rise of these gases indicates our global systems are out of balance. Addressing climate change requires tackling emissions from all these gases. Feedback loops in the climate system can amplify warming. Weakening carbon sinks create a cycle of more CO2 and more warming. Ice and snow melt, reducing the albedo effect, leading to more heat absorption. These loops can transform gradual change into rapid, exponential change. The Arctic is warming twice as fast as the rest of the planet. Record CO2 levels indicate we're close to triggering runaway processes. Once engaged, these loops could make climate change uncontrollable. The danger is abrupt climate shifts pushing Earth into a hotter state. We risk losing control over the climate system. Immediate action is needed to prevent these feedback loops from taking over. Carbon dioxide is a long-lived gas, affecting climate for centuries. Even if emissions stopped, existing CO2 would continue to trap heat. Future generations face a warmer planet with extreme weather. Sea levels will rise as ice sheets melt and oceans expand. This threatens coastal communities worldwide. Our decisions now will determine the severity of these impacts. The 2024 CO2 surge is a reminder that our window to act is closing. The global scientific community is urging immediate action. Current efforts to combat climate change are falling short. We need rapid, deep cuts in greenhouse gas emissions. A radical transformation of energy systems is required. Adaptation efforts must also increase to prepare for unavoidable changes. The record CO2 levels are a measure of escalating risk. Incremental changes are no longer enough. A global emergency response is needed. Without ambitious action, we risk losing our last chance for a stable future. The time for action is now. The 2024 CO2 report was timed for the COP30 climate conference. It serves as a reality check for global climate negotiations. The World Meteorological Organization proposes a global greenhouse gas watch. A unified monitoring system would provide accurate emissions data. This transparency would increase accountability and guide policy. COP30 is a moment of truth for world leaders. They must agree on ambitious emission reduction targets. The fate of the Paris Agreement and our climate stability hangs in the balance. We stand at a crossroads in human history. The 2024 CO2 levels are a critical turning point. Our path leads to escalating chaos and disruption. We must transform our economy and energy systems. Embracing clean energy offers a chance for a better world. This is a task for all humanity, requiring global cooperation. The record CO2 levels are a call to awaken to reality. We can choose a path of action and build a stable future. Our choices now will echo for centuries.